Hi.
Hello again. We're in the Pure Worship book. What page?
Page 107.
107, and we're finishing off the 5 promises which they have taken from Israel and applied to their own modern history.
Yeah.
So we're going to read the last of those promises, and the last comment in this particular section. I'll be reading from the screen if I look a little distracted.
Mm-hmm. The 5th promise, unity among worshippers of Jehovah. Over the centuries, Christendom has split into tens of thousands of denominations, including countless factions and sects that are hopelessly at odds. In contrast, Jehovah has done something truly miraculous with his restored people. His promise through Ezekiel, I will give them a unified heart, has seen a glorious fulfillment. That's Ezekiel 11:19. Around the world, Christ has millions of followers from countless ethnic, religious, economic, and social backgrounds. Yet all are taught the same truths and carry out the same work in marvelous harmony. On the final night of his life on earth, Jesus earnestly prayed that his followers would be united. And they encourage you to read John 17, verse 11, and verses 20 to 23. In our day, Jehovah has fulfilled that request in the greatest way. Are you not delighted to live during the thrilling time of restoration? We see the fulfillment of Ezekiel's prophecies in every facet of our worship today. We can be confident that Jehovah now looks on his people with favor, just as he foretold through Ezekiel. I will take pleasure in you. And that's Ezekiel 20, verse 41. Do you realize what a privilege you have to be part of a unified, well-fed people who are offering praise to Jehovah around the world? A people freed after centuries of spiritual exile. Still, some of Ezekiel's restoration prophecies will see a greater fulfillment yet.
Well, as we said last time, I think the theme was 5 fictions in 2 paragraphs. Well,
Yeah.
We've got at least 2 or 3 fallacies in the 2 paragraphs here, and one of them is that you fulfilled prophecies made to Israel. You've referenced 2 of them here.
Yeah.
Ezekiel 11:19, I will give them a unified heart. That's not directed at Christians, it's directed at Israel's ultimate destiny. And also Ezekiel 20, I will take pleasure in you. Well, just read Ezekiel 20. They've only given you 41 here. 41. Read the previous 40 verses and see what's being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
We've made videos on this before.
Yeah.
But the other fallacy, first of all, that you can read prophecies written to Israel from Ezekiel and make them apply to you somehow.
Yeah.
The other fallacy is that in the New Testament, unity meant uniformity. Mm-hmm. And they've read that right into Christ's prayer request in John 17, where he prays that they will all be one just as you and I are one. Well, that was fulfilled, and it has been fulfilled now for 2,000 years. Because the church in the first century, just read the book of Acts, was preaching the same doctrine.
Same message.
And the message was?
Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. And we hear it in every public preaching.
Yeah, go to any of the churches in Christendom, virtually any of them. All. Another fallacy here is this thousands of denominations idea.
Tens of thousands.
Countless factions and sects. There's 9 big denominations which comprise at least 95% of those that name the name of Christ. 95% of them are in 9 denominations.
And even the churches, the individual non-denominational churches, are preaching about Christ and his death, burial, and resurrection. They haven't got a different message.
No, they don't. And that's why they get along and they work together, as we've said many times in our various videos. But you mistake the word denomination for sect, or for, we would call them splinter groups. So when you brag about the fact that you're all united and Christendom is unlike you, well,
does the Watchtower have splinter groups?
Well, they have
Yes,
many splinter groups,
they
some of
do.
which are still around.
Yeah.
And that's the case with the big denominations of Christendom, which have been around a lot longer than you. So, of course, there are many more splinter groups. But they're all very small. The big denominations, the big nine, all have more people than you do. All have more than 8.5 million people.
Yeah.
Some of them have hundreds of millions of people in them.
So when Jesus prayed for the followers to be united, that was fulfilled. They were united with the same message and in devotion to Christ and in following Christ.
But when you talk about unity, as you do here, you're actually bragging in a uniformity, which does not correspond to the unity of the New Testament.
Yeah.
Your unity is wrapped around 3 badge issues, which are the way you preach door to door, the name you preach, Jehovah, and the kingdom issue.
Yeah.
And those 3 are not backed up even by the New Testament. We need to say that emphatically. And if you have loved ones that are still trapped in the Watchtower, say that to them emphatically. Find the 3 badges that all the early Christians went door to door, that they preached the kingdom and they preached the name Jehovah. None of those badge issues display any kind of unity other than a unity against the message of the New Testament.
And the unity has to do with the receiving of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
That's another reason why the churches are united.
I just react in almost a violent way to this question in the second paragraph. Do you realize what a privilege you have to be part of the unified, well-fed people who are offering praise to Jehovah around the world?
They're uniformed, ill-fed people.
Yes, they are uniform. That is, they all subscribe to the same teachings. And again, that's just not the case. And even in the book of Acts or in the 13 epistles of Paul, you can tell that the way that the various churches around the world did church in those days was not uniform. The biggest single difference, of course, is between the Jewish element, represented by James and the elders in Jerusalem, and the Gentile churches. So they were not uniform, but they were united around Christ. And as long as that was true, they were united.
Yeah, and I think when you call the witnesses uniform in their beliefs, yes, because when they change, they all follow. That's not unity. That's devotion to a group.
Yeah.
And no matter what they teach and whatever changes they make, you must follow them. You must agree. That's uniformity.
Yeah. The miracle of the churches is that they have had the same creed now for over 16 centuries. You can trace it further back still. Trace it before the Apostles' Creed. You can find it at Irenaeus in the 2nd century. You can find most of it in the book of Acts and 1 Corinthians 15. So check out those passages, 1 Corinthians 15, 1-5, Acts speeches, especially the first 6 chapters or so, all the speeches in there. Find out what the focus is, and then you realize all of the badge issues just aren't there in the New Testament.
Yeah.
And the one you brag about the most, that is that you are all busy preaching the kingdom door to door or in public, isn't there at all. The only preachers in the New Testament are in public places, like the temple, like the synagogues.
The leaders.
And they're the leaders.
The apostles and the leaders,
What are our links?
We have one link to a video we did, What Do the 9 Major Denominations Agree Upon Against the Cults and Other Religions?
Yeah, the centrality of Christ being the big one, but in this particular set of videos from James Orr's book about his basic theology book, you can see that even the God they agree upon is different than yours if you're a Jehovah's Witness. Yeah, the God of the attributes of the God of the Bible are much larger and unlimited than the God of Jehovah's Witnesses or the God of the other cults. They're not. The witnesses are not unique in having a little God. See you next time.